Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And this morning's topic is evolution and looking at how change can happen so gradually over time that we don't even notice it. And at other times, it can be so radical that it's just it happens in fits and starts and things change in the blink of an eye. So let's, before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen just flooding your lungs and flowing into your bloodstream and nourishing all your cells and all your organs and bringing vital light energy throughout your body and your being. And as you exhale any tension, any stress, negativity, or fatigue. And let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating all your cells and your organs, and enlightening your electrons and stimulating your molecules, creating a glow from the inside out. And as you exhale, exhale any stress or tension, any remaining fatigue or negativity. And now let's just gently press our palms together. Softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms and feel the deliciousness of that sensation and allow yourselves to become present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So the week is flying by. It's Wednesday. And Maggie, no, Maggie's eating the plant. So what else is new? Maggie, come on. Maggie. Nope, she's unless I go over and here she is. Oh, she's learning. I don't know. Anyway, good girl, Mag. So, evolution. Hello, Pat. Welcome. Great to have you here. Good afternoon to you. And good morning to all of those of us in the States and wherever it's morning and whatever time of day. It's great to have you here and be here with you. We're talking about evolution today. And so far this week, we've been talking about life beyond limits. Good morning, Rosalind. Great to see you here. We've been talking about life beyond limits. We've been talking about, I'm not remembering exactly what yesterday was, but I know it was going beyond the limitations of belief. And today we're talking about evolution. And most of us here in the Enlightened World Network community have been on a path of awakening, enlightenment, learning, evolution. And I imagine that we've all experienced different ways that we have grown. Sometimes our growth happens so subtly over time that we don't even notice unless we make a deliberate effort to make an accounting, to make an assessment of where we are in life compared to where we've been. And I don't know about you, but I on occasion, having done that, have been rather shocked at how radical the transformation has been. Usually, I think, generally, we tend to be looking at where we are not, where we haven't yet arrived versus how far we've traveled. And I think there's value in recognizing that we have made wonderful inroads and traveled a great distance and been on a wild and productive journey. I think there's benefit in that we get to recognize that change is happening, and also to acknowledge that things can change and that we do change. I they say that people don't change, but I don't believe that. That's not my experience. I mean, maybe they don't change fundamentally. Maybe we are fundamentally who we are. However, our reactions to things can change, our perspectives on things can change, um, and our sense of wholeness certainly can evolve and change. And so I'm wondering if you'll engage with me today to talk about some of the changes that you've noticed in yourself over the course of your life and in your path, and have those changes been gradual, or it's interesting because as I'm thinking about it, I notice that there were certain issues that were so prominent for me for years, and they're no longer on my radar. They're no longer part of my conversation. And it's so fascinating to notice that somehow they disappeared from the horizon and I didn't even notice. These things that were so consuming for so many years, they just sort of went off into the ethers. And this is really an interesting aspect of change that I'm aware of, and that is that when we do make a change, when we do make a radical transformation or a complete transformation, then it's as if the other perspective never existed. It's as if we shifted a dimension, and the life that we're living in now is at a completely different frequency. And so that previous experience is no longer part of the conversation, is no longer on the radar. And I've seen this happen with clients. I remember years ago when I was learning NLP, I was in a class, and we were doing work with each other. And I did a session with someone, and the issue that they had was that they sweat profusely, just like ruined clothes. Good morning, Tammy. Welcome. Great to have you here. We're talking about change and evolution and how we notice it or don't notice it. Anyway, so we did this session, and I guess it was, I don't know if it was days or a week after the session, I said to this person, "So, what's happening with the sweating? Are you still sweating?" And the person said, "What sweating?" And it's as if that whole identity, that whole perspective, that whole experience that was so painful for them just completely evaporated from their life and from their history, almost, from their awareness, from their consciousness. And it's remarkable, and I see it over and over with people. There was another person that I did an NLP session with those years ago, and they wanted to be able to, they were an amateur car racer and race car driver, and they wanted to improve their performance. But what the complaint was that every time they'd come up against one of these uh, well sponsored drivers that they considered a pro, they seemed to put their foot on the brake, and I think maybe even in a literal way, that they just kind of gave up in the race, thinking, "Oh well, I don't have a chance. Here's this person, coming by me, and they're some kind of big shot." And so we did the session, and they went to a race, and I got to talk to them after the race, and I said, "So how did the race go?" And they said, "Really well. I came in, I don't know, second, let's just say." And I said, "Really? So that's amazing. And what happened? Did one of your competitors come up alongside you?" And they said, "Oh yeah." And I said, "So what did you do? Did you put on the brakes?" And they said, "Oh no, I saw it because in the NLP session, what showed up was a green light, to have the green light, that as soon as they saw this competitor, to see the green light. And so they saw the green light and they floored it. And I said, wow, that's remarkable, to see the transformation. And they're like, what transformation? Of course I saw a green light. Because it was their new, hold on one second. Maggie, no. Maggie, no. Good girl. Sorry. Yeah. There's one plant that I will not, I'm trying to avoid her destroying. Anyway, it's very, very fascinating to notice that when we make these shifts, it's almost a client once said to me, I don't know what happened, but I feel like I was picked up out of my life and put into a new version of my life, like a whole different dimension, a whole different experience. And when that happens, this person that happened with did recognize it because it was so radical in the context of one session, um, and they did notice it, but and it held, of course, because this was a radical transformation. And the next morning, they were still amazed. They went into the session feeling literally consumed by a rage and darkness that was like tar in their veins. And afterwards, at the end of the session, they actually threw up and felt like a whole new person and slept for the first time in a month. And the rage was gone, and the darkness was gone, and the hatred was gone. It was really, really quite remarkable. So the thing is that that's one way that change occurs, but it's not the only way that change occurs. Change can also happen incrementally, where we grow into feeling or expressing, feeling, being our better selves, bit by bit, that we incrementally move into our fuller expression, and gradually grow into our evolution. Hello, Josie. Welcome, welcome. Great to have you here. We're talking about evolution and the different ways that we evolve as individuals, sometimes in cataclysmic ways, sometimes in fits and starts, and sometimes in just a gradual shifting that is so gradual that we don't even notice it. So Rosalind says, I've been evolving into what identity to project after releasing the need to have children. This has been a big, big thing for you, Rosalind, and I so appreciate you sharing it with us and your journey, and even detaching from the need to be or do anything. Beautiful. It seems this process started a few years ago, but it has been a conscious change recently this year. So I think that this detachment from the need to be or do anything is a pathway to our freedom and to our awakening. Um, it's and our capacity then to engage more richly with life, because we're not putting constraints on it, trying to make life conform to our ideas of how it should be. We get to let go of how life should be and then step into the vast possibility of the unknown, and embrace that in its perfection, like allowing ourselves to trust ourselves enough and to trust life enough to just move into the constant unknowing, and um, with a joyful anticipation for the possibilities that life will bring to us, for the opportunities and the experiences. Because the truth is, we really don't know what's going to happen next. We really don't know the nature of this world. We might have some indicators about how certain things work, and we have hypotheses that we live as if they're true, these hypotheses, but in actuality, in any moment, at least that's what physics is saying these days, in any moment, anything is possible. And with being able, we were talking about uh, being gods in the flesh this week, and talking about Joe Dispenza. That's a quote from him, uh, that that our access to our capacity comes from being willing to release the need to be or do anything, to release our attachment to things and identities and places and familiarity in order to access the greater possibility that is available to us. And I, I I find that one of the things that was said yesterday is that we were talking about releasing identities, and that who are we if we release all of our identities, if we release our need to she's got these little pin feathers that she are very sensitive to her. So that's why she's making those noises periodically. I hit one of the pin feathers wrong. Anyway, so we were talking about being in free fall. If we release all of our identities, all of our mooring, all of the things that make us believe that we are who we are, the things that are familiar, if we release those things, then there's a fear that we may not be able to function, that we might die, and literally that we may not be able to do the things that we're called upon to do in life, that we may not be able to feed ourselves. There's a fear around it. Good morning, Elaine. I was actually referring to something that you said yesterday about how in our evolution we evolve to the place where we become more and more ready to let go of these identities, that they're not they're not stripped from us all at once, that we gradually loosen our grip on them, and then maybe grace takes over when we're ready to be able to be in that space of infinite possibility and have that access to unbridled awareness and beyond identity. We were talking yesterday about being no one, no thing, uh, no place, no time, and how disorienting that could be. And some people, especially for instance, I think this happens when people have enlightenment experiences or people have near death experiences where there's a radical shift of paradigm and orientation, and there's this new knowledge and awareness that just does not jive with the commonly held notion of reality. And that can not only be personally disorienting, because those are notions of reality that we've held ourselves as well, but it can be very disruptive socially. I think I was tapping in when I did. I told you this week that over the weekend I did a Wim Hof workshop, and was up to my neck in ice, in an ice bath for 5 minutes, and um, talking about what's possible. And anyway, in when I did that, what happened for me is we had been working with moving all this energy. Well, I all of a sudden got all this energy up at the top of my head, and it was like a migraine in at the top of my head. And so I was doing some session work on myself to say, what is that? Is it a block in my crown chakra? What is that this energy just congested in my head? And I was in pain, really spending time in the water, trying to manage that pain, like be present to it, allow it to move and shift, whatever. And so in the course of doing this session work, what came up for me was a fear in achieving enlightenment, a fear of being committed to an institution. And it was very interesting to recognize and identify that fear, because many people who experience enlightened type experiences are still perceived as crazy. And not it's not culturally, it's more culturally acceptable than it used to be, but it's potentially dangerous, right? So it was really interesting to see that there was this fear, and it probably, I don't know what the origin of it is, but it's probably a an interdimensional or um, multi-life type fear from another time and place, perhaps. So Elaine says, yes, we appear to die over and over again as we remember death is not real. A beautiful and infinite intelligent process for each soul. So much, so much love and care for all. And Rosalind, thank you, Elaine. That's beautiful. As always, um, so not only is death not real, but maybe life, what we perceive as life, isn't real either. That this is all one big illusion, and being present to that illusion can make you, you know, depending on who you're around, right? If you're fortunate enough to be around people that get what's going on, then you can be revered perhaps as or cared for lovingly as someone who is having this rich experience. Versus if you're around people that have no comprehension of it, you could be hauled off to an institution and put in a rubber room. So I, Rosalind says the definition of family has evolved over time. Beautiful, Rosalind. I've released the need to become someone. I'm just being. Wow, so huge, Rosalind. So, yes, the definition of family for me also has evolved over time. Being more connected to the notion truly of a human family, and my friends were very much a part of my family as I was growing up. I got from my friends the support and nurturing that I was feeling the lack of growing up in my family, um, feeling very isolated in my family, and creating my own extended family. And so, um, coming to terms with not not having a child is a very big thing in our culture. And Rosalind, in your family, it sounds like it's something that was lauded over you in a very big way. And so your courage, to take ownership of your own path is something that is very, um, courageous and strong and powerful. And at one point I really, really wanted to have a child. And at this point in my life, I can say that I'm very glad. I'm very glad and feel graced that I did not. I At the time that it was an option for me, perhaps I wasn't equipped to be a good mother. I'm not saying that that's in any way the case for you, Rosalind, but it was for me. And also, I don't believe that I would have had the opportunities to explore and grow and evolve that I have had I had a child. That would have been in very different ways, certainly. You because the depth of a relationship with a child is unlike any other, I imagine. But I think that we each have our paths, and as we allow for our lives to unfold as an unending adventure, we may be judged for that, um, and we may judge ourselves, but for that. So I think we get to evolve past the judgment. Really an important thing. And Elaine says there's a lot of distortions around enlightenment that are clear as well. So I agree that there are a lot of distortions around enlightenment. It's interesting. It's really interesting to watch people who are my clients show up to sessions um, when they know a big change is going to happen, with the same kind of fear, maybe not of being committed, but maybe with the fear of not knowing who they'll be. And I've actually had clients say that, like, who will I be? Or how do I introduce myself? How do I say who I am now that I'm not what I was? Or now that I'm not going to be who I was? It's so interesting. And usually on the other side of it, there's a much greater ease and self-acceptance. So I want to tell you guys that I am now recruiting for the next cohort for my coaching program. It's going to begin the middle of June for 3 months. And so it'll go to the middle of September. And if you want to learn about it, you can go to my website at yourcoreconnection.com and read about the work and what it looks like to work together. And what I am doing to, for people who are interested potentially in working together, is giving a, a session in the core connection work that I do that is so remarkably powerful. And it's powerful unlike anything else I've seen, because it is guided by your own inner intelligence. And the introductory session that I give, I introduce with this question: what in your way of being if it were to change, would be life altering. And we explore to identify what that would be. And then we do a session, and the results are really quite extraordinary. So if you're interested, I call it transformational coaching because people think they know what coaching means, and it makes it easier to get into a conversation that way. But it really is profound transformational work, and I only it's by invitation, so I only take on clients who have done work, who have done a lot of self exploration. And anyway, check it out, see if you're interested, and if you are, you can reach out to me. Just DM me through Messenger, and we can set up a session. So Elaine says, that's true for me as well. I got pregnant, but she didn't make it. A true blessing. So we were talking about the blessing of not having children for some of us. And Elaine says, I had to work on me in this life. So perfect for me, a powerful life for sure in so many ways. I you know, I've really felt very much the same, Elaine, that it was a blessing. There was a time when I thought I was pregnant as well, and I wasn't, or if I was, I became not pregnant before I ever knew that I really was for sure, and I felt like it was a gift. Um, I didn't want to be perpetuating the patterns that I had grown up with. And it took me a good portion of my life to get to the place of of knowing that I could be a good parent. So let's see. You're so welcome, Elaine. And Dido says, Dido here. I can testify that working with Mira is just magical. Dido, thank you so much. I'm so glad to have you here. And I love you so dearly. It's been such a privilege to work with you and to experience your magic. So, hello, Christina. Welcome, welcome. So good to have you here. And Rosalind says, when I begin to have negative beliefs about lack or fear of uncertainty, I remind myself to enjoy the ride. Let it be exhilarating in its unknown possibilities and its unknown outcomes. Exactly. So there's really a very close relationship between anxiety and excitement. It's very, very close. And uh, when we have the ability to shift into feeling that the universe has our back, then we can feel the excitement and the invigoration of the unknown rather than the terror of the unknown that we can't control, kind of thing. So it's really quite remarkable. And Elaine says, absolutely, I came to stop the cycles of abuse. I hear that, Elaine. So I believe very, very deeply that when we heal ourselves, we heal generations past and future as well. And we've talked about this, the ripple of healing through time and space. And so as we heal ourselves, we also heal the planet. And so stopping the cycles of abuse, congratulations for you, Elaine. Really. And I think a lot of us have come here to work on similar issues, to be elevating the general consciousness on the planet. So Elaine says, yes, inside out, for sure, for sure, for sure. Uh, yeah, because it is it is our inside that is projecting the outside, right? So Anyway, I think I am going to call it a wrap for this morning. It's, as always, an incredible pleasure and privilege to be here sharing these conversations with you, and to be having your perspectives, and to be privileged to experience the openness of your hearts and your expression. I just have so much gratitude to you. And yeah, so that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is Maggie. And this is the Core Connection. And we go live each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. And in fact, it's Wednesday. So this afternoon is the Sustainability Hour with me and Maggie. And I invite you to join us. It'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern on the EWN at One with the Earth page. I'm not certain yet what today's topic is. We might even talk about my eco park vision and my latest idea about a sustainability tour. So, yeah, it'll be fun to have a conversation with you as always. And Pat, you're so welcome. So glad to have had you here. And thank you all. Much love. Until next time.